of which, we are just 3 hours away from what could be the biggest political event of the 2024 election cycle. Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee for president, taking on former President Donald Trump in their first debate. It happens just down the road from us in Philadelphia, and the stakes could not be higher, with polls showing the race virtually dead even. We have Fox team coverage tonight. Jackie Heinrich is in Philadelphia with how the Democrats are preparing for Harris's first direct encounter with the former president. But we begin with congressional correspondent Aisha Hasni, also in Philadelphia, with insight into the former president's strategy. Good evening, Aisha.
Right, good evening to you. I'm told that the former president is, quote, cool, calm, and collected, and well-read on the record of Vice President Kamala Harris, going all the way back to her San Francisco DA days. As for his tone tonight, I am told by the campaign that the president is going to be himself, but the question tonight is he going to be able to stick to the issues? Will he take any personal attacks? His campaign says he can be focused on the issues.
Look, of course he can, and he will.
Tonight, former President Trump's campaign says he'll force Vice President Kamala Harris to own every Biden domestic and foreign policy failure over the last 4 years. And he plans to lay out her liberal record, going all the way back to her role as San Francisco's district attorney.
He is very focused. Again, he is an incredible debater. We saw what he did with Joe Biden, that knockout punch that knocked him off the ticket.
Trump has been prepping with Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz and former presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard, who faced off with Harris herself during the 2020 primaries. Gabbard says tonight is all about the issues, not personal attacks.
He's not focused on trying to get under her skin. He really is focused on the issues that matter most to the American people.
This afternoon, Trump posted his 20-point platform on Truth Social, topping the list, sealing the border, carrying out the largest deportation in American history, and ending inflation. Trump leads Harris by a single point in the latest New York Times Siena poll, well within the margin of error. But Harris has an 11-point advantage among female voters. Gabbard says Trump will speak to women tonight by talking about what matters most to them, issues like crime and safety, the economy, childcare, and housing. Meanwhile, Trump hopes to bring in RFK Jr.'s supporters after he posted a new video today urging them to ignore his name on the ballot.
No matter what state you live in, you should be voting for Donald Trump.
And Brett, we are expecting to see RFK Jr. here in the spin room where I'm standing here tonight, along with a flurry of different Trump surrogates, including his running mate, J.D. Vance.
You disappoint me.
I'm speaking.
Mrs. Harris, what good is speaking if you can't speak?
Oh, shut up, silly woman.
Yes! We made it! We're here! Let's rock and roll! Who's ready to rumble? It's debate night! The Rumble in the Jungle. We have been waiting for this moment, and we are hyped, locked in, and ready to go. As we often show you in our studio, we have been predicting this moment. We do live inside of a physical, practical set. A lot of people have digital environments. Everything is real here. And this has been our poster. This is our poster. Klein, can you get a better version of this to pop up for the beautiful people? We have in every live, in every video we record here, we have been projecting to you that this is going to be our moment. Trump versus Kamala, baby. And Camilla, tonight is going down. And we have the entire night booked and blocked and rocked and ready. Your comments will be on screen. Producer Robbie, make sure the beautiful people know that their comments can be on screen. If you join our members right now, we have new debate emojis just for you. If you sign up for membership, we say thank you. We say God bless you. And we say we love you. Make leftoid traders seethe again. Thank you so very much. We have been telling you, there it is, baby. Trump versus Kamala. The day Joe Biden dropped out We ripped down the Joe Biden one. We tore it up live on camera. And now we are ready to go. We've been waiting for tonight, Tuesday, September 10th, 2024, debate night. Kamala and Donald facing off in less than 2 hours from now. And we want to get the biggest feed. We want to get the hottest feed going. And we have some of the best guests we will be bringing on the program tonight. We are so extremely excited. Joining the show, Representative Corey Mills, former Attorney General Matt Whitaker for President Trump, General Michael Flynn will be joining us, Jim Jordan, Monica Crowley, Scott Presler, Mike Benz, Jack Brewer, and even more special guests. Some Trump family members, RFK Jr., Vivek Ramaswamy. You never know. You know, Alex Jones, you never know who could be popping on. The interesting thing about this current moment in time is that all of the energy is on our side. Is there anything more lame than supporting Kamala Harris, like telling people in public that you support Kamala Harris? I mean, could you imagine? Could you imagine living like that? And walking up to people and then you ask them why? I'm not trying to take credit for anything. I know this has become quite famous tactic, but we were asking people, why do you support Kamala Harris? Like over a year ago, we'll play you that man on the street. Over a year ago, the biggest black fraternity in America came here to Tampa and we just wandered around. Hey, you like Kamala? Why do you support? Like, why? Now it's become the meme. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've been like a hound dog sniffing exactly what was going to happen. Platforming Vivek, who's been predicting this. Here, of course, is our graphic, ladies and gentlemen, for tonight. My favorite thing is the runny makeup. That's my favorite thing. Will Kamala Harris appear with giant orange face paint on? Will she put a Trump wig on? Will Kamala Harris put a bandage on her ear and walk out with a giant spray tan? We don't know exactly. Well, she's been stealing all of Donald Trump's policies. And, well, we do know this, that President Trump was there to greet her. You know, the two have never met. As far as we know, the two have never met. There's no photographic evidence of them shaking hands. Robbie, I see a lot of members chiming in. Make sure that the members are up on screen. Your comments will be up on screen. We love this comment section. We pour energy into it. We pour energy into our broadcast. We even have Hulk Hogan's New America beer here in the studio. We may crack a cold one open once the debate starts. We do have Hulk Hogan's brand new America beer. Donald Trump just endorsed it, so we have it. It's chilling in the fridge. We'll crack it open and get it out and get it going. So we just want to say thank you so very much, Rocket Queen. Rocket Queen just became a member, and we say thank you. We say God bless you. If you want to use our special emojis, we have good ones just for the debate. We'll even update the emojis live. No other show will do it. Okay, we're done. We're done talking about it. Done talking about it. We're just so excited. We're so excited to be here. We're done talking about it. But listen, we have an entire meme team on. This is the final thing I'll say. There will be commercial breaks. Here's our feed right now, Fox News. This is an ABC News debate. However, it can be simulcast across all different platforms, right? So we're gonna have a bunch of options to choose from. But the debate stream is going to be the same on every single channel. What's going to be different on this channel, unlike every other channel, is we're going to have live memes. We're not going to interfere with the debate. You're going to love how we do it. We're going to have live memes during the program. So for our commercial breaks, like they're in a commercial break right now, we're going to have live meme cutaways. It's going to be very, very fun. Also, during the debate, while I will not interrupt, remember the mics are muted, right? That means us too. I will not interrupt. You may interrupt, meaning your comments can pop up on screen right under Communist Camilla. Okay. So we are excited for tonight. And it seems like your comments have already made Kamala do this expression. This is a good expression, clown. This is what we're looking for tonight. This is the goal tonight. All right. This is the goal tonight. When Trump is asked about his comments regarding Kamala, he should say that he only did it because he is offended by identity politics. America deserves policies, not pandering. You know, this is very interesting. Yalfdup. Dear Yalfdup. It's kind of like saying, like if your girlfriend says Lizzo's beautiful, and you're like, well, then you look just like Lizzo. Like they'll kick you out of the house, right? And light your car on fire. Like you're not allowed to do that. Like DEI is really great until you call someone a DEI hire. Isn't that strange how that works out? So like, shouldn't that be a compliment to somebody? Why are you treating it like an insult? Exactly. We're going to talk about the Haitian migrant crisis that is springing up all over, springing up in Ohio. We, again, may have some special visitors from the state of Ohio on this program. We'll see. We'll see. And we may have some plans to travel there as well to investigate. But yeah, this is going to be the program that like vibes and rolls with tonight, that will have a lot of fun. Everyone's going to broadcast the same thing, but we're going to have a lot more fun on this channel. We're going to be a lot more interactive, and we have a lot of special surprises for everybody. So special surprise waiting for Queen Camilla that makes her look like that, right? With the screen, with the runny makeup and everything. This was what Queen Camilla looked like inside. Or do you call her Queen Camilla? Yeah, Queen Camilla, Queen Communist Camilla. This was what she looked like when her motorcade pulled up today for the debate. Remember, she's been in blackout mode, meaning I think she's been drunk, and she might show up drunk. We're not exactly sure, but she's been in blackout mode. No press, no media. Been hunkered down for 10 days. You know, reading everything. You know, reading everything and practicing her comebacks. Okay. Well, when she showed up today, MAGA was there to greet her. Welcome, There you go. There you go. Look at that. Woo. We want Trump. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Look at him go. Look at him go. Killer Klein. We're just gonna play the video. Killer Klein's gonna play the video until her voices crack. Beautiful. Here we go. That was the energy. That was the energy that was greeting Communist Queen Camilla today. This is the energy of the chat. Just letting you all know, like we watch the chat. We love the chat. We here for the chat. We are the chat. Okay. I'm up in the chat day and night. Here you are. I don't know if you're on. I don't know if you're currently on this, but we just say we love you. We're all gonna interact together in this. This will be the only one that is completely and totally interactive. Here are your memes. Look at the screen. Do we have new emojis in there, Jerry? Okay, Jerry wanted me to put this up. We got some new emojis. Look at this. We're going to live update. You get special emojis. Can I get Trump fight emojis, please? You get special emojis in our chat. So you pop them up, and there you go. And we're off to the races. Jerry is going to be here live making new emojis from the debate that we can use and drop in the chat. So get ready. When Kamala Harris goes, I'm speaking. When Kamala Harris does that, Velociraptor. Feline energy. Meow. Yes. Kamala Harris. We'll have that emoji ready for you. We have an emoji team that is standing by to make emojis for you to use in the chat for your user pleasure. Please, Klein, show the beautiful fight emojis. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we show you the sights and sounds of outside of the sights and sounds about here, your fight emojis. There we go. Share and fight. There we go. Watching from Namibia. We have people watching in Africa. Holy smokes. Well, thanks. We say we love you. Freedom is an international movement, right? It's international movement. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are certainly ready to rock. What did it look like when President Trump arrived? Certainly, it must be quite different. And in just a moment, we'll be joined by Congressman Corey Mills, who we're very excited to get his take on this. He's quite the quite the good debater himself, actually. Just won a landslide his Republican primary. And I don't know, is anyone even running against him? Is it pointless to run against Corey Mills? Here in Florida, we'll talk about it. Here's what Trump's arrival looked like. See if you can spot the difference. So no comments. This is President Trump getting off his plane moments ago. No comments. You can see the sun is setting. It's in Philadelphia. No comment to the press. President Trump doing a little wave, right, and getting into his armored SUV. And well, there is going to be something very unique and very interesting at the debate tonight. And I look forward to talking to Corey Mills about this. Corey Mills is a man of great stature, member of Congress, has served our country honorably, continues to serve our country. But would Corey Mills allow the podium to look like this? There are podium differences. We just want to get whatever changes that there were, whatever changes that there were to the debate that you should know about. We've already covered extensively what the rules of the debate are, right? Mics are muted, no interruptions. A candidate gets an answer, gets a chance to rebuttal. Going to be 3 commercial breaks and so on. Again, we'll keep everyone entertained. But ladies and gentlemen, get a load of this. This is brand new.
Debate for Harris.
Let's go ahead and show so this is the debate difference in the podium. Would you look at that? The podium for Kamala is smaller in order to show her stature. So they wouldn't allow Kamala a box to stand on. So she's not allowed to have a box, right? She's not allowed to have like a little podium. But she is, there you go, pop it up. But she does get a much, I think this is actual size. I think this is the real size. Look at this. I think so. Klein, Killer Klein, can we zoom in there? Like, I'm pretty sure this, according to the Secret Service, is going to be what the size difference is going to look like. Okay, all jokes aside, and we are going to have a lot of memes here. I will tell you the difference between a meme and real life, although it's becoming virtually impossible to know. There will be a sizably smaller podium for Kamala. So they weren't able to get a box for her to stand on. So instead, they screamed that they got a smaller podium. This is great. Okay, here's the news of it.
Been following Kamala Harris. Now, Jackie, I understand the Harris team now has some concern. Is this right about her height? What's going on?
Yeah, you did read that right, Laura. You know, the vice president's team has been doing a couple things to position her well tonight. For one, they got her a shorter podium. So at 5'4", she looks even on the TV split screen with Trump, who is 6'3". They also advocated to have the traveling press pool positioned close enough to the candidates tonight so that they can hear and report on whatever is not picked up on the mics. They are hoping that Trump goes off the rails. They've been trying to get under his skin with billboards, ads, and even former Trump administration officials working as their surrogates here in the spin room to try to make that happen. But beyond the mind games, Harris has focused on how to handle Trump tonight. She's meeting him for the first time. He has an edge over her in debate reps. It's his 7th general election presidential debate, her first. Harris consulted with Trump's former opponents, Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, for pointers on how to get that done. She's also spent much of the last 5 days studying Trump's past debates, his positions, and his comments, both in interviews and on social media, so that she can put on her prosecutor hat and try to put him on trial.
Ooh, put him on trial. You know, he's not going to be convinced of that. This is what it looked like on the street. Killer Klein, I saw this. This is what it looked like on the street as the president was driving in. Kamala Harris did not have any supporters in the streets, not as far as we could tell. But this is what President Trump saw. Look at that. The scene outside of Philadelphia International Airport. Punch in a little bit, shall we? The scene outside of Philadelphia International Airport. Look at that. Look at that. You know, we have a producer who lives in Philadelphia. We have a producer. She's called the amazing Ashley. Is she in there? Ashley, are you in there? We're not sure. We don't know. Look at that giant flag. Maybe that's Ashley holding the humongous Trump flag. This is what Trump saw in the middle of like dark blue Philadelphia. So the amazing Ashley. This is it is remarkable. You go down into these like cities and you ask them who they want for president. Guess who they say? We went to Obama's neighborhood. This is very dangerous, actually. Like it's quite dangerous. And guess what they all told us? We couldn't find a single Obama supporter in his neighborhood. Every one of them wanted Trump. So this, frankly, doesn't surprise me. While it may be shocking, it does not surprise me. So, ladies and gentlemen, an exciting night. Lots of sights and sounds still to get to. It's going to be a rockin' and a rollin'. We have so much, including an interview with Laura Trump that we want to dive into. But first, ladies and gentlemen, the great Congressman Corey Mills joins the show live. Corey, what's up, my G?
What's going on, brother?
Bro, would you ever allow you run for political office? You're in your third term?
Heading into my second if I win this general.
Okay. So would you ever allow your opponent to use a lollipop guild desk? Would you allow
I'd let my opponent use anything that they want that they think can give them an advantage, because it doesn't matter when you speak policy and you speak truth.
I mean, this is kind of interesting. The miniature micro machines debate podium.
Well, look, at the end of the day, she has to do anything to try and mask her very small performance when it comes to the deliveries of success. And so whatever they can do to try and elevate her in any way, they're going to try and do to give her the upper advantage. But I can tell you, my biggest fear is that the last time President Trump had actually went and debated anyone, he ended up retiring and ending their career. So I don't know if they got anyone in the backbench. Maybe Hillary's standing on deck right now in case Kamala taps out as well after this debate. But the reality is that if they run simply on policy, there's no way that she can stand against him. If he starts talking about the agricultural sector with the China Phase 1 deal, if he talks about holding adversaries accountable, where he was bankrupting Iran, where they've actually allowed Iran to have more money than ever in oil revenue to China, the delisting of the Houthi rebels, where President Trump was the one who actually put that in place to allow 12% of global trade, the Remain in Mexico agreement that was keeping us safe and stopping the fentanyl overdoses and increasing angel families, the Abraham Accords, the most monumental Middle East stability deal that's ever been done. I mean, nothing. 20 plus years, Benny. 1979 in Egypt, 1994 in Jordan was the last time that a Middle Eastern country had normalized relationships in Israel and started to actually look at it. And KSA, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, was getting ready to get on board. So, look, if we go through a multitude of things, elimination of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, elimination of Qasem Soleimani, a drawdown for Afghanistan, our economic, thriving like we've never seen in the markets and everywhere else. I mean, if he just runs on what he did in 4 years, and he plays the Reagan model of, are we better off now than we were 4 years ago? She has nothing to run on outside of cackling. The fact that she is actually a prosecutor who put away over 1,500 people for marijuana charges, all which she was targeting with black males. The fact that she was withholding evidence for people who were on death row that could have actually have gotten them off death row, and was forced to actually release that after the attorney general had to come forward. I mean, look, this is a woman who does not have a stellar record. So if it's record to record, I think Trump comes out in a landslide on this tonight.
So this is a very interesting day to start with, because I crack open my social media feed and they're staring at me at 7 a.m. in the morning. Is Melania Trump saying that there are unanswered questions about her husband's assassination? Right. Now, of course, I know you to be one of the core experts on this. You and I have traveled to Butler ourselves. I know you've been back. I know you've done even further research. We covered it extensively. However, this is crazy that Melania began the day by saying, why did they allow a gunman to nearly execute my husband on live TV? There are so many questions. We need the truth, which is very powerful coming from Melania. First off, your reaction to that video.
Well, let me just say the First Lady is absolutely elegant, eloquent, and she puts across things in a way that everyone can relate. And I can tell you, I can't wait to see her back in the White House once again, bringing class and bringing what we need back to represent the true American, epitome of what we want for FLOTUS. But she's exactly right. Think about the mainstream media right now, Benny. It was you who was continuing to carry the torch to keep this alive for the investigation because mainstream media was absolutely already moving on. You're talking about one of the most significant events and incidents that has taken place in our lifetime where a former president was nearly assassinated by the difference of milliseconds, millimeters, and what we call divine intervention. You know all too well, Benny. We've talked about the fact that he was shot at 6:11 p.m. And if you read Ephesians 6:11, where it talks about donning the full armor of God to prepare yourself for the evils of Satan, I think we can acknowledge we're in the prophecy of Revelations in the end of days. But what I would say is that she's exactly right. You know, the Secret Service falls underneath the executive branch. And so the fact that they're not pursuing this, I mean, we live in the state of Florida, Benny. When we have a hurricane, you have a daily briefing, sometimes multiple briefings a day. Right. Here's how much electric's been brought back on. Here's how Florida Power is doing things. Here's how we brought in new assets and resources from outside states. There's been one thing by Roe, who is also responsible. I don't think removing Cheadle made any difference whatsoever. And actually, Dan Bongino made that even more certain that he's less, feeling confident now than before. But here they haven't done a single thing since then to even update on the investigation or what investigation is ongoing. So I'm grateful that you took the time, Benny. You used your platform. You got an amazing documentary, the first one that came out, beating the task force, because they still haven't had one come out. They're talking about trying to get their first report out by, I think, December. But the reality is that people's forgotten about it. And this is a man who just took a bullet. You want to talk about a threat to democracy? This is a man who just took a bullet for democracy, who doesn't need to be going through the continual attacks, the slander, the defamation, the threats on his life, the impediment to his children, to his businesses. And he does it because he loves you, he loves me, and he loves America. That's what this is about. It's the fight, 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 fight for democracy, fight for freedom, and fight for the American people.
So the follow-up question to that is in line with what we are about to see now in approximately 70 minutes, right? 70, 80 minutes. Will Donald Trump be asked about the near execution that he endured at the hands of a known leftist, right? We've seen a social media post. Somebody clearly hates Trump enough to try and murder him. Do you think this will be part of the debate? It's funny how things blend together. Before the Joe Biden debate, Trump hadn't eaten a bullet yet, right? And it actually, he was shot just a few weeks after that, about 10 days. So it's wild. The timeline here, and this is the first debate since Donald Trump took a bullet.
Well, I'd welcome it. It'd be a pleasant surprise to see the media actually bring this up, and also to see what did Kamala Harris and the executive branch do in an effort to try and eliminate DEI and bring back meritocracy to guarantee that our Secret Service is able to provide security for all who are actually deserving and require it. I mean, think about it. It was President Trump who even had to fight to get RFK, his security, whenever they were denying that, and his father and his uncle was murdered and assassinated. So I think that I wouldn't be too optimistic that's going to come up, but I hope that they go and they talk about this. They talk about the economy. They talk about the open borders. They talk about the unconstitutional overruling of SCOTUS, where they had the tuition bailout. They talk about the money that is going towards illegal criminal migrants. They go and talk about the angel families. But here's something that'd be a novel concept, Benny. It hasn't been brought up in 2 opportunities in the State of the Union by President Joe Biden. It hasn't been brought up by Kamala Harris once. We just went through the 3-year anniversary. Why don't we ask the question about the 13 Gold Star families, the 13 heroes that has fallen in the botched Afghan withdrawal, where Kamala Harris has admitted to being the last person in the room and helped to say that it was a great success. Go ask those families like Darren Hoover, or go talk to Paula Knaus, the people who lost their children, and ask them if it was a great success. So I hope that they get the acknowledgement, and we never forget our 13 fallen heroes. We never forget those who have sacrificed. And again, let us live our lives. I ask everyone, I implore you, live our lives in a way that's worthy of the sacrifices by so many, because that's what America's about.
I have these photos at the ready. We have just the best production team. They're just photos that make you look like such a badass. So photos of Corey Mills in war and serving, and we have quite a few of them. And you've gone to some very, very dangerous places, and you've shed blood for your country, and you know the high cost of idiotic leadership. And there are, I believe Kamala Harris is perhaps uniquely one of the least qualified people to be president. That's what I believe. But I'd like to give you an opportunity to say, well, what would you ask? You just brought up Afghanistan, but I don't know if that's, I don't know, what would you, based on what you've seen in Washington, based on what you know about Kamala and what you know about her record, if you got an opportunity to cross-examine her here tonight, what would be your question?
Well, look, I would ask her, why did they actually overrule the advisement by their generals? Why were they trying to hide the dissent cables from the 23 diplomats who warned about their strategy and told them that it was going to get Americans killed when we had to nearly hold Secretary Blinken in contempt of Congress in an effort to try and get it? Why did they loosen up the sanctions on Iran that allowed this regime to continue to murder the innocent people of Iran who were trying to actually overthrow this terrorist group who has actually been in charge, and gave them more money than they've ever had in unfrozen assets and even permissibility to exchange oil to gain revenue that led to the attacks on October 7th. And I truly believe this, that led to the attacks on October 7th in Israel by the known Iranian terrorist organization Hamas. Why did they delist the Houthi rebels, who's now disrupting 12% of global commerce and driving our goods up, helping China, Russia, Iran, North Korea's geopolitical alignment, this axis of evil? Again, the questions go on and on and on. Why are we allowing and not utilizing CFIUS to block the sale of U.S. steel, the last steel industry in America, to not sell for $14.4 billion to Nippon, Japan, so we can keep American workers at home? Why don't we look at our military, Benny, where the fact is that we have a 42,000 recruitment deficit right now. You have 8,700 people who are unconstitutionally purged out of our military for not acknowledging their medical and religious freedoms. There's so much to go off of. And to your point, Benny, if we ran off her record, this would be the fastest show ever, because it takes about 30 seconds to list them. But if we list her failures, we would have to add additional episodes just to be able to get to all the things. But now she's had so many failures, she's gotten to the point where now she's like, you know what? I'm just going to say that I'm for all the things that Donald Trump's for. I think that she's actually endorsed Donald Trump at this point. I mean, she might as well just say, hey, I've adopted all your policies to put on my own platforms. I didn't have anything. Hey, thank you for your endorsement. Let's move on. It's just an embarrassment, Benny, that of what we see. And I'll tell you, whether it was my time contracting with the State Department or agencies, or whether it was with the military, there's so many more heroes that's done so much more. I'm the farthest thing from a hero. I fought in combat. I love my country. I want to serve. But the reality is that our true heroes are those who sacrifice everything. And that's why, again, I want answers and I want accountability for the 13 Gold Star families. They're the ones who truly deserve it. I want answers from the Secret Service on why they didn't accept the compatible and, offered comms that they were given by the local police. Why didn't they accept and take the offer of the surveillance drone that was offered to them? Why didn't they make the morning meeting to actually can determine whether or not we have enough security and placement there? Why are they trying to run away from giving us briefings and answers to where we're now having to actually subpoena them for? I mean, there's so much to ask, Benny, and I know I'm laboring on, but I think the American people realize that we're in a very bad state of things, and that's why we need President Trump back in the White House and the 47th president of the United States.
So I can't let you go, Congressman, without asking a very, very important question about something that happened that was huge inside of the U.S. House of Representatives, in which you serve. One of your fellow members bringing up possibly one of the most dire and important issues of our time that affect the American people, keep a lot of people up at night, frankly, which are AI-generated memes of President Trump carrying ducks and kitties. And your colleague, Eric Swalwell, decided to have a full-on, Chinese panic attack over these memes. And we have this shocking footage to play and share for you, and I'd love to get your response.
What the hell is this? The chairman tweets, protect our ducks and kittens in Ohio, because he goes down some crazy rabbit hole, completely debunked that aliens are eating pets. My God, are you okay, Mr. Chairman? Because last year, for a very long time, you tweeted and promoted Kanye West as he was calling for genocide against the Jews, and you kept it up. And now, when we have victims coming here, you're tweeting this nonsense. I don't know why you would do this. I hope you're okay.
Well, you know what? We're going to pray for Eric Swalwell, but just want to, considering that you know so many of these people, and that you serve on these committees. I would just like to get your perhaps response to this deeply feline meltdown that Swalwell had. Absent his, when you take away the guy's fortune cookies, he kind of breaks him.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Isn't it interesting that he wants to talk about people calling out farce cities? Wasn't he the guy that was Russia, and had to be removed from the Intel Committee because he was actually intentionally misleading Americans? I mean, look, at the end of the day, ducks and kitten lives matter. I mean, we have to get back to the understanding that this guy just had nearly a Kensinger moment minus the tears. I mean, I couldn't even tell what was going on. He had so much cracking and pitch in his voice. I mean, he's truly distraught right now over that meme. And if that's all it takes, again, it's because the left suck at memes. We may suck at coming together and messaging, but the left sucks at memes. I mean, that's the bottom line, and they're just getting destroyed by them, and they don't know how to react. But, again, we'll pray for Eric. I hope that his bowels can hold during his actual time on the 5-minute podium. But again, I'm going to stand by it. Ducks and kitten lives matter. That's all there is to it.
I'm sure there's plenty of Depends left over when Joe Biden resigns from the White House. I'm sure he can go raid that. Thank you very much, Congressman, the great Corey Mills. Make sure you go follow. Go follow this man. He's a true truth seeker and an actual warrior. And we just say thank you, Corey.
And by the way, God bless you, and congratulations to you and your wife on the amazing blessing of a new child.
Come on, baby. Come on, baby. We're gonna libs aren't gonna repopulate the world. We're gonna repopulate the world. That's right. That's right. They're ugly. They're ugly. Come on, you got problems there, right? Smelly ugly. Thank you, Corey. Godspeed.
All right,
man.
thanks, Benny. God bless.
Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot wait for our next guest, the former acting attorney general of the United States of America, somebody who can sound off on Kamala Harris's prosecutorial vibe that she's going to try and flex tonight. The great Matt Whitaker joins the program. Mr. Attorney General, I want to begin by apologizing for sort of rolling a little bit late tonight. We're so excited because there have been some huge breaking news updates. And I just wanted to share with you this breaking news update, which is the president, your former boss, and maybe future boss, who knows? I think you were a great acting attorney general. I hope you get that job again. He has been sharing cat memes. We have some of them here for you, for your viewing pleasure. This is the president sharing memes of him holding kittens and ducks. And this is in the lead up to tonight's debate. So I guess the floor is yours, sir.
Well, Benny, it's good to be with you, my fellow Iowan, and let me just join Congressman Mills in saying that kitty and ducky lives matter, and it's a little awkward, but it's to some extent. I mean, the left takes themselves way too seriously, and obviously we are dealing with a lot of serious issues, but for a member of Congress to just absolutely go apoplectic over someone sharing a meme, that just seems to me to be too much. But Eric Swalwell has always demonstrated time and time again that he is not a serious person. He's a hyper partisan Californian. I don't know if you know this, Benny, but he was actually born in Iowa.
No way.
Yeah. And so when he ran for president, I know you don't remember that and nobody remembers that, but when he ran for president and was trying to participate in the Iowa caucuses, he told Iowans that he was born in Iowa. I think he was born in like Council Bluffs, possibly.
Wow.
But he decided to go to California where all the liberal tears can create lakes.
That's exactly right. I got to tell you, if he had stayed in Iowa, he certainly wouldn't be doing what he's doing today, which is quite humiliating. Iowans love animals, right? Like we love animals. Everybody in Iowa grew up working either on a farm, living next to a farm, knowing somebody who either had livestock, going to the state fair. I know you were at the state fair day and night. You're there in beautiful Iowa State Capitol right behind you.
Yeah.
We are animal lovers. We're animal lovers in the Midwest. And I think that's what's so resonant about this story. I just wanted to touch on it since it is a Midwest story and it does have to do with open borders and criminal illegal immigration and the disruption of the ways of life for peaceful people, like the peaceable people who live in the Midwest.
Yeah. And so the bottom line is obviously memes are not meant to be, serious ways to communicate. They just highlight, parts of life that just need to be laughed at. But, at the heart of this story is really about 20,000 Haitian immigrants that were waved into our country, and they've located themselves in Ohio, and they're causing serious problems in Ohio, in the city that they've all decided or were assigned to or put in or settled. And so, for me, I think, we can laugh about kitties and ducks, but the real issue is that we have open border where we've brought in 10 million people that are here illegally that shouldn't be here. And now the Democrats that cause this problem want to suggest that somehow they don't want to fix it.
Yeah, I guess it does beg the question, did you ever show an animal at the Iowa State Fair?
No, I didn't. I was born and raised in Ankeny, which is a kind of if I like to say, if Des Moines could have suburbs, it would be a suburb of Des Moines. But no, I was I kind of grew up out on an acreage, but not on a farm. And I have, I love my farm friends, and I go to the fair every year, and I make sure I go through all the barns, livestock barns, and see the biggest bull and the biggest boar, and just eat a lot of corn dogs and funnel cakes and everything else.
If you're a politician, I always tell any politician who asks me about Iowa, and Vivek did actually this year, I said, do not let them photograph you eating a corn dog on a stick. Just don't let them do it. Right. It's just like, there's going to be bad pork chop on a stick too. I think Chris Christie got the pork chop on a stick, and just not a great look,
Such good food though. It's hard.
He did it private. So you said you go and you observe the boars. I think that we'll have quite a boar tonight when it comes to Kamala Harris. Apparently she's been practicing her comebacks, which doesn't seem like a very secure thing to do. She's going to be using the prosecutor against the felon paradigm tonight from her miniature podium. Do you think that's going to work? You, of course, were the chief law enforcement official in America.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work, because most Americans know that the lawfare that's been waged against Donald Trump by prosecutors in New York and Washington, D.C. and Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, has been completely, the cases either dismissed or they've been, very flawed with novel legal theories. But, I think what's going to happen tonight is everyone, the expectations couldn't be higher for Kamala Harris. She is. Nobody knows what she stands for. She's going to have to explain her current positions and how those relate to her old positions when she was in 2019 trying to run for president. And at the same time, everybody knows Donald Trump. Everybody knows what he's about. Everybody knows his policies. Everybody knows what he stands for. And at the end of the day, I think as long as we're on the issues, for example, like inflation, crime, the border, national security, those are all winning issues for Donald Trump. And it's what American people care about. So I hope the wild card for me, Benny, and what I'm watching tonight is the moderators. The CNN moderators did a pretty good job, which is surprising. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, that was surprised how down the middle of the fairway they played it. And so we'll see if Mr. Muir, if that's how you say his name, I don't watch ABC News, so but we'll see if the moderators tonight can resist the temptation to insert themselves into the discussion and try to win the debate for Kamala Harris.
I know you're very close with the president. I know the president trusts you very much, and I'm sure that you've had his ear throughout this preparation process. If you were to cross-examine Kamala Harris and ask her a question, what would it be?
I think it's very simple. You've just told the American people what you currently believe. Are you sure, or have you changed your mind? And just kind of give her every opportunity. You say you're for fracking, but you were against fracking. What informs your decision? Bernie Sanders said that you changed your mind on these important positions to win an election. And you said your values haven't changed. What does that mean? I think there's a series of discussion points here that would really highlight just that, she's a massive flip-flopper. Really, we haven't seen a flip-flop like she's doing since, Kerry, who voted for the war before he voted against it. It's that kind of massive flip-flopping.
So President Trump tonight, cool, calm, collected.
Yeah, the old gunfighter. I think he just has to be
I love that.
On message and on policies and just contrast it. Again, everyone knows that the Biden-Harris administration and their policies has failed. You know, whether it's the Inflation Reduction Act, which did nothing but increase inflation, whether it is, you know, the failures at the border, whether it is the feeling generally of being unsafe in your own home, in your own communities, you know, all of these issues, and, you know, and a world on fire. Let's not forget that she's the one that went to Russia, you know, to convince Vladimir Putin to not invade Ukraine. And before she landed back in the United States, he was, you know, on the border invading Ukraine. So, you know, it is purely strength versus weakness. Donald Trump representing strength. We've seen it before, and we know he'll do it again. And Kamala Harris just representing the same old failed policies that the Democrats have tried to implement 12 of the last 16 years that are not working for Americans, including my fellow Iowans.
What's your prediction? What's your prediction, Matt? You think Iowa by 10? Iowa by 12 for Trump? What's your thoughts?
Well, I just, you know, I spent a lot of time and I talked to a lot of my fellow Iowans, and it really is funny. I don't think there's any doubt that it is, you know, he wins Iowa by more than 8. This new way that we're doing Trump elections, though, and really micro-targeting and getting out the voters that are sort of not always reliable and that believe in our policies, that share our values, but don't always vote, and getting those folks to the polls, I think you could, you know, certainly win Iowa by 10 or 12 points. It's a red state. You know, we got to get 4 members of Congress back this time, and, you know, just continue to have a supermajority in the House and Senate at the state level as well.
That's right, man. It'll be so great to get you at the state level when you're governor, right? You're gonna remember, are you gonna be the next attorney general? I can't decide actually which one I'd prefer for you.
You know what? And Benny, in all seriousness, all I care about is winning in 2024. Everything else will take care of itself, and, you know, whatever God's plan for my life is, I'm very comfortable with that.
Hey, man, we'll be there for you. You look great with the beautiful Iowa dome, a golden dome behind you. Maybe that's why Trump loves Iowa so very much. Thank you so much, Matt Whitaker.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right, baby, we are rocking. Oh, man, it is going to be a wild evening. Next, in just about 10 minutes, we're going to be joined by the great Jim Jordan, Chairman Jim Jordan, the guy who I'm pretty sure that Eric Swalwell was having the pee-pee in the pantsies meltdown over the meme with. Oh, man. We got this beautiful photo of President Trump rolling in. Look at this. Does this man look nervous to you? Does this man look nervous to you? Punch that in, baby. Look at this. This is Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore. Look at this. Does this man look nervous to you? This is President Trump seconds ago driving in to the arena. Now, there will not be a live audience, right? That, I think, is very sad and unfortunate, because Trump is so good playing to a live audience. But here's President Trump, the sights and the sounds. Producers, get me the sights and sounds. I want to see everything in and around this great debate tonight. I saw some interesting things from our friend Nick Sotor. Show me what the outside looks like. Is there a MAGA rally going outside of the debate right now? We're going to make sure we bring it all to you. Apparently, there is a massive MAGA rally in the middle of Philadelphia outside of the debate hall. Will they be allowed in? They should be allowed in. Let them come. Let them head into. We want to see it. We want to see the energy. The energy, ladies and gentlemen, this morning was pretty exciting. Now, you'll see that Laura Trump decided in her travel schedule, she had one show she had to hop on, and it was with us early in the morning. Laura Trump said, I want to make sure that I get a chance to message and reach out to the chat, okay, to the pirate ship here, to the brigade, and to say hello. And so a wonderful member of the Trump family, the RNC chairwoman, Laura Trump, joined us this morning to talk about something that's just so bloody cringe-inducing, which is the I'm speaking. Okay. It's so hard to watch, actually. I'm gonna try to like prepare you for the levels of cringe we are going to be reaching tonight. This is our nuclear cringe alert, okay, for the day. This is a nuclear cringe. This is the last time we saw Kamala Harris, communist Kamala, debate. It was over 4 years ago. And it was a nuclear cringe. I don't want to just like go boom live to Kamala. You can't take it. You can't take the cringe. You'll pass out. So we're gonna slowly sneak it in there. Okay, we're gonna slowly build up the immunity here to the cringe. Here's our nuclear cringe for the evening, Kamala.
President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait.
I'm speaking.
Be important if you said the truth.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Okay. If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation. Okay?
Please.
Okay.
Non-answer.
Trying to answer you
The
now.
American people deserve a straight answer.
I will not sit here and be lectured by the Vice President. I'm speaking. Yeah, I'm about to. I will not be lectured by the Vice President.
Okay. What? Okay. Honestly, I think everyone's brain was broken. Remember, it's 2020, it's COVID. They had all this plexiglass, and it's, fly, whatever, like little fly drone, deep state drone lands on Pence. I don't know what that was even. Nobody's sure about it. But I can tell you this, man. We got some better energy this time around. Laura Trump this morning responded to that clip on our program saying what Trump will do if Kamala tries to pull that. Go. Watched the Mike Pence Kamala debate, which was the last time we saw her debate. She's not a real candidate. She's not a legitimate candidate. She didn't run a primary. Nobody voted for her. So we didn't get to, and nobody got to vet her this time around. And people have sort of like forgotten about her. It was just a few months ago that most of the pundits were talking about Joe Biden kicking her off the ticket, actually, because she was so unpopular.
Yeah.
But I can see why
Vice President,
these
I'm speaking.
clips are crazy.
I'm speaking. Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait.
I'm speaking.
Be important if you said the truth.
It's so
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
cringe.
I'm speaking. Okay. If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation.
Almost worse than the fly.
Non-answer.
Trying to answer you
The
now.
American people deserve a straight answer.
Okay. So like this is like nails on a chalkboard, Laura.
Yeah. It's not good. I don't know who likes that. I'm not sure with whom that will resonate. I can tell you as a woman, it makes me very uncomfortable to watch that. And cringe is the right word, of course, for that. And she is also, Benny, going to try and do something where we've heard her do it in her campaign speeches, or those same ones she's done like 25 times in a row. Remember that one? I'm a prosecutor. I know Donald Trump's type. She's going to try and play that role. But it's also something that I think makes people a little like, well, what is it that you're prosecuting? Because you've been in the White House for 4 years alongside Joe Biden. And if the things you're attacking Donald Trump on are the things that your Department of Justice actually weaponized and in order to take him out as a political opponent for your team, I don't know how great that's going to come across for people. That is all she has, though. Let's be clear. She really can't go out there and expand and articulate anything in terms of policy. What have we actually heard from Kamala Harris on anything that she wants to do for the future of this country? So far, she's either stolen Donald Trump's ideas like no tax on tips, or she's talking full-blown communist in terms of price fixing. Whether or not Kamala Harris even understands what that means or how to put something like that in place is up for discussion. She's a little bit like Ron Burgundy. You put it up there on the teleprompter. We know Kamala Harris will say it, but can she actually expand on this? Can she articulate any sort of points on anything? And that remains to be seen. So all she has are those viral moments, those needling moments, those sorts of things. And she's going to try, and I'm sure have many of those tonight. I got to tell you, I don't think Donald Trump is going to take the bait. He's well aware that this is what's coming down the pike for him.
Boom. Boom. Good. We're glad. And he's locked and loaded. And Laura is somebody who's been assisting in debate preparation. She's somebody who's been assisting in the war room for President Trump. Speaking of the war room for President Trump, the sights and sounds, the war room inside of the debate hall for Team Trump. just got FaceTimed into by President Trump, and we have exclusive behind-the-scenes footage for you of this moment. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump on FaceTime.
The set is good. I feel good. And we're going to do something. But you guys are more important than I am, actually, because you'll get the word out the way you want to get it out. Good luck. Thanks, Alex.
They have 50 million. They have 50 million followers combined. 50 million. The big deals.
Have a good time. Maybe more. Have a good time. Triple what the Super Bowl is.
All right, let's do it.
So we'll have some fun.
Go win this thing.
That was Donald Trump and Eric Trump. They're from the war room saying that he's ready to go. They're going to have a good time. Let's have more viewers than the Super Bowl. Ooh, baby. The energy out of Team Trump. Check this out. This is the video that the Trump War Room just posted of Donald Trump dancing, saying, you know what? It's time. It is time. It is time, baby. Less than 1 hour away. This is the Trump War Room. They are memeing. They're going to meme him to death. And we're sorry. We hear you. We hear you. We understand that there's a little bit that audio was a little low. It's the best we have. So the video of a FaceTime video, so we apologize. We crank the audio on everything else. This is the vibe. Less than 1 hour away, Donald Trump dancing on social media. There with Eric Trump, Eric Trump's wife, Laura Trump, also with them. Speaking to us, though, and us exclusively this morning, talking about if Kamala Harris will use a fake accent during the debate. What will happen if Kamala Harris pulls out the old Gone with the Wind accent? Oh, who knows? Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. We're not exactly sure. But Laura Trump says they got a plan for that. Kamala Harris will use this accent during the debate.
My friend Quavo would say, he does not walk it like he talks it. Everywhere I go, I tell people, look, you may not be a union member. You better thank a union member. For the 5-day work week, you better thank a union member. For sick leave, you better thank a union member.
So we've all seen it. We've all seen it. It's widely viewed clips. We have hours of it, of Kamala Harris having suddenly this like foghorn leghorn, extra and Gone with the Wind
Yeah.
accent. Do you think she's going to bring that accent to tonight's debate?
Gosh, I hope so. I hope we get a shot at that one. You know, this is Benny. This is the inauthenticity that I'm talking about. This is the inauthenticity that the American people really don't like. You have to present yourself as who you are. And for all the criticism that Donald Trump has received over the past 9 years, there is one thing on which you cannot knock him. He is authentic to the core. You do not get more authentic than Donald Trump. He's transparent to the core. And you're never going to hear him coming up with weird accents out of the gate, just depending on where he is, to which audience he's speaking. It's ridiculous. And it's very pandery and really gross to people, I think, to see this. And so I'd love to poll the people in the audience there whenever she actually breaks out this weird accent and say, like, do you guys buy this? Is this positive to you? No one likes that. No one likes to feel like someone's just faking it to be around you. We all know people like that. And quite frankly, we don't like people like that. So yeah, let's hope she breaks that accent out tonight. I'm ready for it.
Hi, baby. Okay. Laura Trump saying, bring it. Bring on the I'm speaking. Bring on the ridiculous accents. You have no authenticity. You don't know who you are. You're a very insecure woman. You have no sense of yourself. And you don't stand for anything. And that's going to be really what's on display tonight. Our prediction is that Kamala Harris is going to come out with her talking points, going to come out really strong. They're going to try as hard as they can to declare it a victory for Kamala Harris in the first like two minutes. As soon as Kamala gets in a boom clap, I'm speaking. Hallelujah. I'm the prosecutor. Get ready. Get ready. I'm the prosecutor and you're the spelling. Get ready. She's going to do it. She's going to do it. We're going to sprinkle the salt. We're going to sprinkle that salt, baby. She's going to try, and she's going to start come out swinging. All right. And, quite frankly, the standards couldn't be lower for her when it comes to Joe Biden. You won't believe what Joe Biden just said at the White House. It's insanity. We'll play it for you in a second. But then what will happen is the real prosecution will begin, and that will be Donald Trump prosecuting her record. Now, what we have been told, all day, we've been asking people, including some people who were in the room with Trump for the debate, how was Trump preparing for this? And they've said Donald Trump is going to hit Kamala directly on her record. Kamala Harris is going to try to relitigate 2020. She's going to try to relitigate COVID and try and relitigate January 6th. And Donald Trump's going to say, stop it with the ancient history. We're going to talk what's real. And I think that Donald Trump's going to win that debate. I think that's the debate that the American people want. And Donald Trump comes in carrying some very specific energy with him. This is the energy from President Trump's grandkids. It's amazing. We have clips of Eric FaceTiming. We have Laura on our show. And now Laura and Eric's grandchildren, who they share, who they post on social media, giving a message to Grandpa before the debate here on this program exclusively. Let's go.
Good. Have a good time at the debate tonight.
Say, love you, Grandpa.
Love you, Grandpa. Love you.
Come on, man. Play just the first part again. This is great. You've got kids.
Good. Have a good time at the debate tonight.
Say, love you, Grandpa.
Love you, Grandpa. Love you.
That's beautiful. That's the energy, baby. That's the energy that they are going to bring tonight. Kamala Harris has had a very interesting clip of her that's been ping-pong balling around the internet all day and been pretty humiliating, but not as humiliating as Eric Swalwell melting down over a meme. He also kept crying to Mr. Chairman, and well, it is our extreme honor to bring you that Mr. Chairman live right now. The great Chairman Jim Jordan joins the program. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for joining us on this important night. As our followers, all know, you are quite good at cross-examination, and everybody sort of like sits back, pops their popcorn, and takes a sip of their beer when you start asking questions of a witness, and we can all see it. We all see it. It's the Jim Jordan eye. We know it. We all know. We say hundreds of hours. You get that look in your eye when you're going to take it to somebody on the deep state, a far left wing person who is guilty, a Peter Strzok, for example. You got that energy in you. You got that dog in you. And maybe it comes from collegiate wrestling. Not exactly sure, but I got to tell you, you know how to make a point and drive a point home. Is this something that President Trump's going to do tonight? What should we be watching for to signal that Trump has the upper hand?
Well, I think he's been good in all the debates he's done. I go clear back to 2015. I think his first debate in the Republican primary in Cleveland, Ohio, when he fundamentally changed politics with questions that the responses he gave to Megyn Kelly. I mean, it was amazing to see. So he's always been good at this. Of course, the last debate he had, he was phenomenal, and so good that they had to go get a new candidate. But I do think the key is, in my judgment, is we're going to get to the facts and the issues now, Benny. We've been on literally what I call a 50-some day pep rally for Kamala Harris. And we all remember back in school at the pep rally, the band's playing, the cheerleaders are cheering, the students are all going crazy. And I always say everyone's undefeated in the pep rally. But then at some point, you actually have to go step on the mat and compete or, play the game. And that's when it gets, that's a whole different animal. I think tonight we start the real game. And we have something we very seldom get in American politics. Back-to-back administrations now running for the top job. And you can just look at the records.
Yes.
Secure border under President Trump, no border under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. $2 gas under President Trump, $4 gas under Biden-Harris. Safe streets under President Trump, record crime under Biden-Harris, and stable pricing under President Trump. Record inflation under Biden-Harris. And you can just compare. So I think President Trump, all he needs to do is say, remember how good it was when I was president. And oh, by the way, we didn't have Russia going into Ukraine and Hamas and Hezbollah attacking our best friend, the state of Israel, when I was commander in chief either. And I think you point out those things, American people going on.
So the president's obviously a massive fan of you. I do not know if you had any hand in his debate prep, but I think he'd be wise to call you and just ask your advice. I know he does do that quite often. And I think I've actually been in the room when the president called you and you had to duck out. And so what would you tell, what have you, or what would you tell him when it comes to cross-examination of Kamala Harris? What is the point that you would really like to drive home tonight, especially given the fact that Ohio, in some places not terribly far, I think, from your district, is really in the news these days.
Very close. Yeah, Springfield, Ohio is very close. A town of about 60,000, where it looks like somewhere approaching 20,000 Haitians have come into that town. Huge impact on the educational system, the healthcare system, and just on the community and the culture and everything else. So I do think you're going to see him focus on that issue. I mean, remember, we went from a secure border to no border, and they made the border czar their nominee. I think that's going to be something President Trump's going to focus on in tonight's debate. I think he should, because it's front of mind for the American people, and of course this record inflation. I did talk to the president today, but all I said to him today was, I use an old wrestling line. What we say in the wrestling world before a big competition is bring the diesel. Just bring it. Like he's so naturally good in these settings, so naturally good at connecting with the American people. You've been to his rallies, Benny. You know what it's like. There's this bond that exists between President Trump and the voters who support him. I just think, like, bring the diesel, be yourself, and make the points about the record. And he's good at this stuff. So I don't pretend I have the answers or anything. I just told him what I used to tell our wrestlers, what I used to tell my boys when they're getting ready to compete.
Bring the diesel. It means a lot. It actually means so much more right now, Mr. Chairman, because they're trying to ban diesel. So, that actually, it cuts the quick.
Well, you come from that great wrestling state, Iowa. You know what? When I say bring the diesel, I'm talking about, bring it all. When you got the big match. I wrestled for the University of Wisconsin, and like when you were it's one thing when you're wrestling some regular old team. You're wrestling the Hawkeyes, you better bring the diesel, particularly if you're wrestling in Carver Hawkeye Arena. You got to be ready to go, and that's what I mean.
And for those of you who don't know, currently on screen here, there are two people currently on screen here from wrestling country, and only one of them would ever be able to survive more than 5 seconds on a mat, and then the other one's national champion. So just keep that in mind. So, Congressman, when we look at what Kamala Harris is going to try and do tonight, she's going to try and pull the prosecutor line, where she puts on her little prosecutor hat and say, Donald Trump's a felon. Now, very few on Capitol Hill have done more to defend President Trump against our DOJ and against the insanity of lawfare than you. But how would you respond to that line of attack?
Everyone knows all 4 of those cases are ridiculous. So ridiculous, they're all falling apart. Jack Smith is, Judge Cannon said, this is crazy. You weren't even properly confirmed and appointed by the Senate. You can't even be doing this job. So Judge Cannon said, see you later. The Supreme Court ruled on the immunity. That case in D.C.'s taken forever. Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, holy cow. That case completely fell apart. And we got a judge up in New York in the Alvin Bragg prosecution of President Trump who should have recused himself. Anyone with the brain can see that. So much so, we've actually subpoenaed the daughter's company who's doing work for all these Democrats. 9 million reasons why we sent that subpoena. So I just point out those facts, and the country goes, yeah, we get it. Oh, by the way, this is the same, this Justice Department here in D.C. is the same Justice Department that said we need to investigate moms and dads going to school board meetings. If you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist, but they can't tell us who planted the pipe bombs, who leaked the Dobbs decision, and who put cocaine at the White House. So come on, just give that kind of answer, which President Trump will do.
What? That was blistering. That was blistering, Mr. Chairman. So it was, a lot of questions. Some darker than others. You held the premier event that led to the thankful resignation of Kim Cheadle. Yet we still have so few answers on all of this. Yeah. This is the first debate with President Trump since the assassination attempt, and it's hard. It's time's a flat circle, man. It's like the Biden debate. The president hadn't survived a bullet. Right. And now things have really changed, and the board has reset. Do you think that'll come up in the debate?
I don't know. What I'm really concerned about, there's all the normal questions that even someone like me who's not an expert in security But we sort of know you should secure the roofs of the buildings that are within, that close distance. And there's a finite number of buildings that needed to be secured and they just weren't. So that's sort of a fundamental question. But what bothers me in particular is the fact that they lied to us. The day after where President Trump shot, 2 others are wounded, and Corey Mills loses his life. The very next day, the Secret Service said, their spokesman said, it's absolute, this is a direct quote, absolutely false that we in any way denied security requests from President Trump's detail for additional resources. Wow. They said absolutely false. And Mayorkas said the same thing. And then 5 days later, they said, well, there were occasions where they asked for things and we turned them down. You lied to us literally within 48 hours after the terrible events that day. And then 5 days later, you say, well, you lied to us. I mean, they're not supposed to do that. We're big boys and girls. We pay their salary. Tell us the truth, particularly when someone lost their life. And the president, former president of the United States, I think the guy going to be our next president, almost lost his life. For goodness sake, at least be honest with us. So I'm really troubled by that from the get-go. And let's hope that, and I know Chairman Kelly, Mike Kelly, the congressman from that part of Pennsylvania, is chairing that task force. I know he's going to work hard. Let's hope we get the truth from the people that they're investigating.
Yeah, I mean, I guess by December, few may know this, but we actually, the only people that were on site when we went and visited with Eli Crane and with Corey Mills was somebody who was working in conjunction with you and was there and investigating and was looking into it. And there seems to be such a lack of interest in the assassination of a president, a near live on-camera execution, and within 24 hours, it's whitewashed. I mean, literally by the FBI, whitewashed off a roof, and the body's cremated. And it's really strange, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the big media. They talked about it for, like you say, a day or two, and then it's pretty much been swept aside because that doesn't fit the narrative they want to talk about. I mean, I always say that, and we saw this with Pelosi's comments yesterday attacking Republicans. There's a template that the left uses. The left will tell a lie. Big media will report the lie. Big tech will amplify the lie. And then when you tell the truth, they call you racist. And if you don't believe me, look what Pelosi did. Just recently, she said Republicans are racist and sexist and terrible. They always call you names. And then pretty soon we'll be proven right in whatever it is. But by that point, they're already on to the next lie. And it's like, in this case, they at least told they covered it for a little bit, but they've moved on to all kinds of lies about President Trump. They've done all kinds of lies about him for the last 8 years. And over the time, though, proves that we proved that they're a lie. But like I said, then they just move to the next lie.
So we wanted to talk. I mean, I know we've touched on a number of serious topics tonight. And I didn't want to, I don't want to take a really too serious or dark turn here, but we just have to because of something that occurred today on Capitol Hill in your committee hearing, responding to something that I think is top of mind for so many Americans, which is, of course, memes and memes of fluffy ducks and kitties, and Eric Swalwell having a purely soy Chinese meltdown over a meme that you posted or the committee posted of a fluffy duck and a cat. And we just want to play the first few seconds here and get you to respond, Mr. Chairman.
In the hell is this? The chairman tweets, protect our ducks and kittens in Ohio because he goes down some crazy rabbit hole, completely debunked that aliens are eating pets.
I know it's painful for him. I just want to give you an opportunity to respond here. He's having a tough one. We sent him a bottle of Xanax. We hope he gets better.
Springfield, Ohio, as I said, you had approaching what estimates are 20,000 Haitians in this community of approximately 60,000 people. And a resident testified at the city commission that someone, that killed a duck and was, So all we did was all our media people did for the committee account was post that meme. And it's, I think, only last check, I think someone told me, one of our media people told me, it's only been viewed by 74 million people. So it must be, there must be something. And come on, get the. But this is a key point. This is exactly the kind of stuff the left wants to censor. And sometimes even more serious than this. They want to and this is a huge issue, Benny, and you know this. This new coalition, I talked to RFK Jr. a week ago after he endorsed President Trump. This new coalition, who would have ever thought? President Trump, Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., same party. I mean, that we're now the party for sure that's protecting your right, Benny, to speak, because the left will come after you. I mean, you know how it is. So this is so, and RFK Jr. had a great line when he endorsed President Trump, because he used the same line when we had him come testify. He said, when you look at history, it's never the good guys who are for censorship. It's always the bad guys. The left are now for censorship 100%. And it's these kind of things that they want to censor. They want to censor people like you who are getting the truth out to the American people. It is scary. And that is one of the key issues that I think are at stake in this election.
Yes, and we say thank you for fighting for that, because it has been withering. Independent media has been on a full-on onslaught, and it's remarkable. I truly don't recognize the country that we're living in today, but I think we can say, I honestly do. I think we can save it, and it gives me so much hope. Go back, give me so much hope. Here's Elon Musk quote tweeting you, sir, with heart emojis, with heart face emojis, and then let's click on the tweet and see how many views it's got. No, the original one. Yeah, 74. Yeah, 74 million. Look at that, 77 million. You're saving the country. Look at that with duck and cat memes, and you're pissing off Eric Swalwell, which is really such a cherry on top.
This First Amendment thing is. I mean, if we can't speak, if you can't have debate, if you can't that is one of our witnesses a while back said, this is the hallmark of Western civilization, that you can speak your mind, not be censored and attacked for doing so, have the robust debate we're supposed to have, which includes humor, for goodness sake. If you can't do that, the alternatives to settling disputes are frightening, and we never want to get there. That's the beauty of this country, the greatest country ever. And I just find it scary. And I'll tell you the other thing. When we had RFK Jr., and you want to know how bad the left is? We had RFK Jr. in that committee hearing. Democrats made a motion to kick him out and not let him talk. And he was talking about censorship. And they make a motion to kick him out. And I'm like, his name is Kennedy. This was a year ago. That's only the biggest name in Democrat politics for the last 3/4 of a century. And they're trying to kick him out of the committee. That's how anti-First Amendment free speech rights the left has now become.
So I just want to say thank you for starting a trend. You, sir, started a trend. Here's President Trump sharing now duck and kitty memes. We say thank you to this. This is something we can all get behind. So to your social media team, we bow down. We just say thanks. We've been meeting this. And I want to give you an opportunity to close here, since you were on the phone with President Trump, and since he obviously you're very close with him, and you give him a lot of advice. And I think it's incredibly sound advice. His vibes going into this debate. We're going to have the debate in 30 minutes. So debate in 30 minutes. What's the president's mood? And your kind of your strategy for Trump to see him succeed.
Yeah,
what does success look like?
Yeah, I don't pretend to give any strategy. I was just trying to be encouraging to the president. I mean, think about what he's had to endure over the last several years, and it just, God bless the man and his family. I love what you played with his family and his grandkids. I mean, that's special. But I just tried to be encouraging. President Trump's a winner. He thinks like an athlete. He hates to lose. He knows how to win. I mean, I just said, go get him, Mr. President, bring the diesel. And he is just naturally good at this. So I'm not concerned. I think he's going to be our next president. That is certainly what the country needs. And frankly, I think it's what the world needs. I think he's going to do great tonight. And I think he's going to be our next president in 56 days.
Yes. All right. Well, Godspeed, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much for the good laughs today.
You bet. Thank you, man.
All right. Bring the diesel. Don't you love it? Bring the diesel. Man, that is some energy there. Boy, it is really, really exciting. We're just so pumped. This is what bringing the diesel looks like. This is what bringing the diesel looks like. Okay, hold on, because it was name dropped. Because it was name dropped by Jim Jordan, and I didn't want to interrupt the chairman. You're right; he's got very busy man. But dude, this is what it looks like. He named it. He said, "This is what bringing the diesel looks like." Get ready.
Don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account.
Come on, baby. Oh, yeah. And Trump changes politics forever. Megyn Kelly never gets her feet back underneath her. The entire debate, man, changes it forever. Will we have this moment tonight? This is really important. Tell me, ladies and gentlemen, is this not the greatest debate moment in American history? I want to see it in the chat. This is the best debate moment in American history. Fight me on it. Go.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Come on, man. You'll tell your grandkids where you were. Where were you when Trump said that? Where were you? I remember exactly where I was. It's one of those moments. You'll tell your grandkids about it. Come here, Sonny. Come here, Sonny. And Grandpa's on the rocking chair. Let me tell you about where I was when Trump told crooked Hillary you'd be in jail. It's too good. Is Trump going to do it tonight? Of course he's going to do it tonight. There's going to be a moment like that tonight. And you'll know it because you'll watch me. I'll throw the salt shaker. I'll just throw it. I'll just throw the salt shaker. Salt will go everywhere. We're going to chuck the salt shaker. I got a couple bottles of bourbon. We got the American beer. Robbie, go bring me the American beer. Yeah, go bring me the American beer. We got Hulk Hogan's beer. Hulk Hogan dropped off some beer for us. How cool is that? Hulk Hogan lives like not too far from the studio. We're like, Hulk Hogan, come into the studio. Do the show live with me. There's plenty of, actually, there wouldn't be plenty of room here for Hulk Hogan. But I like sit over here and let Hulk Hogan just do the show. Come on, man. Anyway, we'll show you. We got Hulk Hogan beer for the incredible nighttime. 20 minutes before this. I can't believe it. We're going. Actually, my hands don't shake. That's one thing that doesn't happen. My hands don't shake. There's somebody who has been. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Producer Robbie. Here we go, Producer Robbie. Come on, Robbie. Hey, there it is. Look at that. Not an ad. Not an ad. Okay? Just trying to help our friends out. Real American beer. Not really a big drinker these days. Got to be honest with you. It says American on it. Donald Trump endorsed the beer. Donald Trump put up a, can we throw that up? Can we grab that? Donald Trump put it up. It's got a, the camera's going to blow it out. But yeah, it has Hulk Hogan on it. So that's what we got tonight. So there we go. That's what we're going to be rocking with. If you hear a crack, that's what it might be. And we're just going to be having too much fun. The real American beer is what we're going to be rocking with tonight. Yeah, I mean, I got a pregnant wife at home, and I got 3 little kids, so I quite frankly don't drink that much. But tonight we may just have to crack open a cold one in celebration. Who better to help us celebrate than somebody who has absolutely, yeah, and pop those up, please. This is Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan saying, "Thank you, brother. Real American hero has spoken. Thank you, brother." This is why we got this, right? Hulk Hogan's right around the corner from us, and thanking Donald Trump for supporting his beer brand. There you go. Here you go. Okay. Scroll down. Let me see that can. That's a cool looking can. Click on that. Let me see. There you go. Can you zoom? Got Hulk? Yeah, okay. Got Hulk up on the top there? All right, cool. Very cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Who better to have on to talk about the energy of the night, to talk about good one-liners, to talk about how it looks to win, what victory actually looks like, than someone who worked for and wrote for and crafted messaging around the most successful Republican presidents in our lifetimes. We're talking about Trump. We're talking about Nixon. We're talking about the big boys. And of course, we're talking about the great Monica Crowley, who worked for all of them and who has great, deep, abiding wisdom for what works in these debates and what works when it comes to reaching the American people. The great Monica Crowley joins us live now. Monica, I just want. Are you traveling right now?
Benny, have I got a story for you? So,
Whoa.
first of all, I am thrilled to be here as always because I adore you. And I had the greatest of intentions of leaving. I was on Fox earlier. I had an event with Secretary Wilbur Ross, and I had every intention of getting home and having my beautiful home studio lit. And I've been sitting in this car with my great driver, Bashar, for the last, I think, 45 minutes. Do you want to know why? Because I'm in New York City, and you know who's here shutting down all of the streets? Joe Biden.
No
Joe
way.
Biden. So I have 20 minutes to talk to you and get home before this debate starts.
You got to hurry. We got 20 minutes. Yeah, that's right. We have 20 minutes. Is Bashar based? Is he voting Trump?
Bashar is voting Trump. He also has his cell phone light on me so that I'm well lit for the Benny Johnson show. So we're flying by the seat of our pants here. But of course, Biden has to screw up everything, Benny. Everything.
We love you. We love you, Bashar. It's amazing. You get into an Uber. I call it the Uber paradox. Because you get into an Uber, and when you're working Uber, you're working like hard manual labor jobs, right? You're like working a real hard job. You're a working person. And every Uber driver, I ask Trump or Kamala, Trump or Biden. And I've never heard Biden, ever. I've never heard Kamala, ever.
Yeah,
never
because
heard.
You know what? Working people, Benny, know better. Every single working person that I've ever dealt with as well for the last 9 years have just sung the praises of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, the blue collar billionaire from New York City, is the one who has always stood up for the forgotten men and women of this country. I will never forget the tipping point moment back in 2016 was when Donald Trump crafted his entire campaign around that theme. He looked at the forgotten men and women of this country and he said, I see you, I hear you, and I will be your champion. That was an emotional appeal as much as it was a political or economic appeal. And those folks in America decided to take a leap of faith with him in 2016 because the guy had never done any of this before. They took a leap of faith. They elected him. And he spent the next 4 years delivering for them, delivering a booming economy, delivering an enforced border, delivering law and order, and delivering world peace. Benny, I don't know what more people expect or want from an American president beyond those things. Those are the core issues: keeping Americans safe, keeping them secure, and keeping them ever more prosperous. Donald Trump did all of that, and he's going to have to do it a second time when he's reelected.
You have worked for President Trump. You've worked for Richard Nixon, who's the landslide, biggest Republican victory in American history, biggest presidential victory in American history. This side of George Washington, I guess, running uncontested. You know what it looks like to win. You know what it looks like to work for a winner and how to craft messages that really resonate with the American people. And you're so good at it, and you do it all day. However, tonight, Kamala Harris is going to try and put on her prosecutor hat and say, you're a felon. How would you, respond to that? Like, what are the right tactics, right, to strategize against that?
Yeah, I agree. I think she is going to try to turn this debate into the trial of Donald Trump because their lawfare has not worked. They thought they would have an actual trial now on the record going into this election against Donald Trump, and it didn't work. So she's going to try to put on her prosecutor hat because that, for her, in her mind, is her strongest posture, not the incumbent vice president back when she was a prosecutor. So she very early on, I think, is going to turn this into the prosecution of Donald Trump. So what I would recommend, and I'm sure the president has been well briefed on this, is turn the tables on her early and say, okay, you want to play prosecutor? Let's play. And then go through 3 or 5 cases when she was DA of San Francisco and then California's Attorney General, when she abused her power. For example, there's a case of a single Black mother named Sheree Peoples, who Kamala Harris said, well, I'm going to start prosecuting truancy for parents. So if the kids are not in school, I'm going to go after the parents and start arresting them. But before you say, oh, that sounds like a great idea, holding parents accountable, no, it was only motivated by money. She was a tool of the teachers' unions. And for every student who was not showing up, the unions and the state were being denied federal funds. So she was going and arresting parents when their kids were not showing up to school. In this single Black mother's case, the child was gravely ill and in the hospital, and she had all the medical excuses for not showing up. And Kamala Harris went to her door and arrested her mother. I want President Trump to start rhetorically machine gunning Kamala Harris on her abuses of power as a prosecutor and a DA. And that's if he starts to turn the tables on her in that way, she will have no answer, and it'll put her back on the back heel, and it will deconstruct her entire debate strategy.
So if you were able to get Donald Trump, and I know he does speak with you quite regularly. If you were able to say, this is the question you must ask of Kamala, and to make it specifically not about the California stuff, because that becomes vanishing for a lot of people and didn't affect globally as many people as I think the last 4 years. What question would you have asked about the last 4 years, since obviously Kamala's the one who's been in charge?
Yeah, I know. And she's trying to run as a fresh face. She's trying to run away from her record when she has held the second most important office in the land for the last 3.5 years. And she wants us all to forget that. I think to your question, Betty, about the one question, and there's so many for Kamala, but she was the border czar. And the no borders policy, not the open borders policy of Biden-Harris, the no borders policy originated with her. It was under her purview, it was her portfolio. So I would turn to her and ask her point blank, you have deliberately erased America's borders. You have created an epic economic, social, and national security crisis of the likes this country has never seen before. Why did you deliberately erase America's borders and put the American people in dire jeopardy over the last 4 years? And then just stop talking.
You're right.
And hear it. And listen to it. We all know it's deliberate because, there would have been a course correction over the last 4 years and they never did it. So I would just ask her point blank why they deliberately are destroying the country with the no borders policy, and then just stop talking and let her answer.
Man, I think it's going to turn on them. Like we go to Manhattan, we go to New York, we go to Obama's old neighborhoods. We can't find Kamala supporters. We can't find Biden supporters. I don't know where they go anymore. Trump holds this big rally in Harlem. I don't know if you were there or not, but it was like thousands and thousands of people in the overflow in Harlem. It's like things are changing, man.
And in the Bronx too. I mean, what Donald Trump does that no other Republican has really done is he meets voters where they are. So he goes to the Bronx, he goes into Harlem, he goes into these areas. He's been at the border. He's talked to frontline ranchers and others who are dealing with this epic crisis more than anybody else. He goes to where people are and he talks directly to the American people. And he says, I hear you, I see you, and once again, I will be your champion. And the power of that it's emotional. It is not political. It's not ideological. It is an emotional draw with the American people and an emotional bond with them. And that is what people respond to with him. And it hasn't dissipated at all in 9 years, which is astounding. You never get that with any American president or leader. I mean, Obama had some of that emotional appeal, but Obama can't draw a crowd now. The fact that Donald Trump is still has this hold on the American people is because he is one of us. He is not one of them. And the split in this country is less left, right, Republican, Democrat than it is ruling class versus the rest of us. Yes. And Donald Trump stands with the rest of us. And that is why I think he is going to win come November 5th.
We always said if we were trapped in an elevator with Joe Biden, we'd ask him, and we got a chance to ask him one question really quickly. It would be, how many grandkids you got? And we think that would be really fun to get on camera. We always thought, no, he wouldn't say the right answer. He wouldn't get it. We haven't thought about it. But to your point, in closing here, this is what it looks like outside the debate. It's a giant Trump rally. So fun. A little hard to see, but it's really fun.
Donald Trump has the people. Now,
Yep,
the other side, Kamala has all the three-letter agencies, the deep state, the imperial media, big tech, Hollywood. And that's why, brace for chaos, because when one side, Donald Trump, has the people and the other side has weaponized government, things could get a little spicy, Benny.
They could get spicy. They're going to get spicy here in the studio. We have our real American beer from Hulk Hogan, dropped off by Hulk Hogan. And we want to say we'll have one for you tonight. We wish you could we're going to offer you one because it sounds like you need one in traffic. And we're sorry.
I really do, Benny. But
we're sorry.
I love you.
We love you.
With bad lighting. That's how
we love you, Monica. We just say thank you. The great Monica Crowley, who just is, and Bashir. Is this your driver's name? Bashar, who's voting Trump. All right, my man. Like the working class. Come on, baby. Here, and there's a beer for Bashar as well. Thank you, Monica. God bless you.
You bet. Thank you, Benny.
Dude, Bashar, my producer is telling me that Bashar can't talk to us because he's holding the light so that we can do the interview. You know what? It's fun. We're rowdy. We're having a good time. Roll in the chat, baby. We are less than 10 minutes away. Show me the live shot. Let's see it. Show me the live shot. We are less than 10 minutes away. This is live, kind of boring, right? You can see the press milling about. And we're gonna go, baby. We're gonna rock and roll. Commercial breaks. You know what you won't get with us? Commercial breaks. You know what you will get with us? Oh man, you will get memes. And somebody has a lot of memes being made in his honor right now. The great Dylan Mulvaney. I'm sorry, what was I thinking? The great Caitlin Collins. I'm sorry, not Caitlin Collins. Oh my gosh, what was guys? It's so rude. My apologies. The great Scott Presler joins the show live. Scott, I would never call you Caitlin Collins live on air ever. I would never do it, and I apologize for doing it. This is what we're talking about here. Here's Scott saying this is not me with a photo of Caitlin Collins. And Scott, we're going to load up a bunch of other memes. You've been posting quite a few memes recently about your endeavors to register people to vote in the must-win state of Pennsylvania. And how's it going, man?
Oh, hey, Benny. Well, listen, I am at the Philly Expo Center right now. We've got hundreds of Pennsylvanians in the other room that are excited to see President Trump rock the debate tonight. And I tell you, that video you have of me up there, I look great in yellow, don't I?
All right, give me more Presler memes. Give me more Presler memes. This joke's played out. We got better Presler memes. You're at the convention center right now?
I'm at the Philly Expo Center. So we're in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, just nearby.
Got it. Okay. Is it rowdy? Is it fun? Is it like...
Oh my God. The energy, Benny, is electric. I've been giving out so many Trump flags, and we have panicked the Democrats. I infiltrated the Bucks County Democrats, and they go, oh my gosh, I'm seeing Trump signs everywhere. I'm so worried. I love it. Look at Trump with my hair. That is a looking man right there.
So is it a watch party that you're at right now?
Yes, this is a debate watch party here in Oaks, Pennsylvania.
Got it. Are there a lot of people? I don't know if you can show us. Could we try? Why not? Let's do it. We're live, baby. We're live. There we go. Got the watch party in Pennsylvania, baby. Must-win state of Pennsylvania. The great Scott Presler. Look at that. This is amazing. Scott, you're now famous in Pennsylvania. Everywhere you go, people have got to be like, I know you, man. I've already registered to vote. I got it. I'm already registered to vote.
Sorry, say it one more time, Benny.
you must, every single person who's ever gone to like a Wawa or a Sheetz in Pennsylvania must know you by now.
You know, the hair and the boots definitely make me stand out. But people come up to me, Benny, and they're just so thankful. They know that Pennsylvania wins the White House. They know that the work that we're doing here is consequential. And look, we're making it fun. You're talking about being rambunctious and rowdy, and that spirit is certainly here tonight. People are fired up to save the country we love. They are ready to take back peacefully our country.
So is this actually you flying in this plane over the NFL game?
Yes.
Are you registered to vote at your current address?
I have to give a shout out to the person making all of these memes. I actually don't even know who it is, but their handle is the number 6, the letter H, and then cents. And that person has agreed on a new meme every single day that I can post for the next 56 days.
So we are less than 5 minutes away. I want to give you an opportunity to update us on Bucks County. I think this is a very recent. This is a very recent flip by you and your team.
Yes. So Benny, 4 years ago, the Democrats had more than 15,000 registered Democrats. As of today, that number is plus 1,400 Republicans. That is a flip of 16,400 to the right, and a state that was decided by 80,000 votes. I want to make it clear to anyone listening right now, we have narrowed the Democrat advantage from 900,000 in 2016 to 347,000 today. If you remove Benny inactive voters, that number is 168,000. Democrat mail-in ballot requests are down in Philly, are down in Pittsburgh, and are down 100,000 from where they were 4 years ago. Republican mail-in ballot requests are up. Republican Election Day watchers are up. And I'm telling you, all the metrics show me, Benny, that Pennsylvania is in play. And let's deliver Pennsylvania for Donald J. Trump.
Scott Presler is, as we've said for years on this program, the one man who actually puts his money and work boots where his mouth is and goes out and does the work. And it's remarkable. You can see the effects of Scott wherever he goes. Really quickly here, Scott, because we have this debate starting in 4 minutes.
Yes.
How does Trump win Pennsylvania in this debate?
Trump needs to talk about the juxtaposition between his administration, which was a booming economy that was working for working class America, that we had peace, no new wars, and it is a threat of the Kamala Harris administration to send all of the Penn State University, to send all of the college kids to fight those wars that we didn't have. And furthermore, illegal immigration is a real serious issue to Pennsylvanians. He needs to talk about that he is securing the border. He will make sure we have peace, not war, and he will fight for moms to be able to have an economy that works for them.
Scott, we have one final meme for you. It's you moderating the debate here and asking the important question tonight. Are you registered at your current address, President Trump?
Gosh, I look great in that suit. That is a good-looking suit. I need to go get it.
I wouldn't know what to do if I saw you in a suit, Scott. I'd be like, this is, who's this imposter? Scott, we just want to say thank you. Part of the reason why we have hope, so much hope, against all hope, is because of people like you who's out and actually doing the work. And we say, God bless you, sir. Anything we can do to help.
Thank you, Benny. I have a state director. I have 30 staff. We are ready to go at earlyvoteaction.com. Let's cheer on this president. Let's elect him. Let's go.
Earlyvoteaction.com. The great Scott Presler. See you, buddy.
Bye.
Woo! We are here, baby. We are here. We are here. We are here. One of us. One of us. One of us. Woo! Got my real American beer. Got my American flag. I even got bourbon if we really gotta celebrate. It's go time, baby. It's debate night. Let's do the stinger. Do the stinger. Let's go. All right, baby. Here we go. This is live. Time for the debate. Let's tune in.
And he needs to put that within reach again.
Harold, where she's had slippage is with independent voters, some black voters, Latino voters. What does she do to get them back in her corner tonight?
Talk about the future. Give
1
us
minute.
a sense of how she will govern that may be a
1
little
minute.
different than what we've seen over the last 3.5 years. Acknowledge a
Nobody
mistake or two,
cares.
and talk about how you're going to get better and make things better and contrast it with the guy sitting next to you. Laura?
Whatever.
People are making less money when you look at real median household income today than they
1
did
minute.
in December of 2019 before the pandemic. The story of this election is the economy. People's pocketbooks are not as full. Their optimism is not where they want it to be. They want hope
Who's
for the
ready?
future. To Harold's point, they want to change.
50K in the chat.
Brett, 15 seconds.
50K in the
It's a
chat.
test for ABC News as well. It's not the place where I worked for 23 years, some years ago. And it's been subject to a lot of criticism, some of it I think justified. Perhaps it'll take a crack, that institution will take a crack tonight at answering some of the doubts about it.
We're going to find out now.
Here we go!
It is a face-off in Philadelphia. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump about to take the debate stage at the National Constitution Center. It is a critical moment in this race for the White House, just 2 months before Election Day in America. Good evening, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum.
And I'm Brett Baer. The ABC News presidential debate begins in just moments. Thank you for watching here on Fox News. The performances tonight could really be the difference between winning and losing in November. And think how much has changed in 75 days. Stay with us for the post-game analysis and reaction from the spin room. Then Sean Hannity takes over at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to take you to Philadelphia now and the entire debate right here on Fox, post-analysis after. Keep it here.
Let's go!
David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
See, have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And
drunk.
I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. we had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your desk?
Well, I won't have to because, again, 2 things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea, and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. in all fairness. J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and in asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs, barely can afford to do it. And what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question. Would you veto?
You could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter, He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from television.
But the people are on television saying their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you. Because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York, every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President
stop
Harris.
him.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
We do have a lot
that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on longstanding work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. if she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get to.
environment that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? there were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
that.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think
up.
we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror, and they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approved the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe, because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
All right, here we go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the game play out. This was the tactic, what we'd been predicting all night, that Kamala Harris would take the prosecutorial, get under Donald Trump's skin, and try and rile him up, trying to hit some of the favorite hoaxes of the left, good people, the very fine people, hoax on each side, talk about Trump's rallies, talk about January 6th. These were the tactics and the strategy. Talk about Donald Trump and military families. These are the tactics and the strategies that they have been screaming about forever, that this was what they were going to do to President Trump. This is what they were going to plan on doing. This was the only way that Kamala Harris could try and rattle Trump, right? So what's going on now? Well, Donald Trump is, well, a guy was shot. I mean, right? This is the first debate since Donald Trump took a bullet and ate a bullet. And I think that Donald Trump is like feeling all of that passion and all that energy. And, well, he's being very forceful in this moment. It's something that is going to be pretty interesting to see how it plays out, because Donald Trump having some good knockout lines, right? Doing the I'm speaking. I mean, I can't believe that. He pulled the I'm speaking. He did an Uno reverse. He did an Uno reverse on Kamala Harris. He pulled an I'm speaking on Kamala Harris. He talked about immigration. He's talked about failures and collapse at the border. The one thing I would like to see President Trump do, and I think we have 2 more rounds of this, is to push every single answer back onto Kamala Harris. There's no reason to litigate the past. We're talking about what Kamala Harris has done for the past 4 years. She's been the person in charge, not President Trump. That's too bad. I wish that wasn't the case. But Donald Trump is somebody who should be able to say with every single answer, why have you destroyed this place? The country's in shambles. You're at fault. Your party has had effectively unified control of the American government for the better part of the last 20 years. And so your response, you think this place is shambles, like you're the person who created the fire. You're the arsonist. And now you're trying to LARP as a firefighter. This is something that I want to see President Trump do when he comes back from the break. Did Kamala achieve getting under President Trump's skin? Well, I've noticed a different tone with President Trump than was in the Joe Biden debate. But we'll see how many people have already made up their minds about this election. Is this too late in the game? And we are 50 days away, 50 days and change away from the November election. Are there going to be more debates? There's going to be a vice presidential debate that's already been locked in, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think it's going to be really, really important for President Trump to take the easiest possible card, Trump card, I guess, for lack of a better term, the ace up the sleeve, which is if this topic, whatever topic it is so terrible, you're so sad about it, you're so upset about it, why didn't you do anything about it? Why have you done nothing to change it? You've been in power, lady, right? And I think that obviously needs to be the tactic. The question that we talked about for 2 hours before we were live, and the issue that I kept asking all of our honored guests about was, will Kamala Harris be able to play the prosecutor here and be able to, from a rhetorical strategic move, will she be able to pull off a casting of President Trump as the defendant, right? As somebody who's like sitting there in the chair who has to like sit there and like defend himself and his record. And that's what she's been doing. You should see every single answer. This is the strategy. Every single answer. Kamala Harris is trying to rebut Trump, trying to like give his argument before he can, and trying to then counter and cement her own arguments inside of Trump. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are back.
Lindsay Davis.
We're
Welcome
back
to
at
this
the debate.
historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. and understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening. But he does have that, something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not, again, appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5, took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said, going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5. They admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad that she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country, one who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life, to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's what her plan is until just recently.
I just need to respond.
President
because,
Trump,
no, the
President
former
Trump,
president has said
no, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry.
I
We're
just
going
need
to move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this is
multiple
now
times.
your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better.
Correct.
Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, We're going to do it, and we're going to replace it. But remember this. I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot
You
of...
made a mistake. At number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. They're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable, but we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Okay, so just want to remind everyone that Kamala Harris just says she owns a gun. She lives in Washington, D.C. on a military base where it's illegal pretty much to own firearms. I would know that because I lived there for 15 years. So where exactly is your gun? What kind of gun do you own? What gun do you own? Just give me a make and model. I'm just curious, Kamala. Please tell me. The American people would like to know. Presumably there's lots of people watching right now, and you're just so proudly telling us that you won't ban firearms. So why don't you just let us know? I am disgusted, man. Okay, so I spent the first hour of this debate. I said, you know what? I'm just going to watch tactics for Kamala and for Trump. And I watched, and we were laser focused on that. And now, as I've watched this second round, bleeding in from the first to the second, now I'm just sickened to my stomach. I sent out a post on X about this. Why do Republicans keep agreeing to this? Why? Why, like sheep to the slaughter? I'm not saying that Trump's losing. I think that this debate is potentially a draw, right? I think that this isn't going to move the needle, really. Kamala Harris comes off as naggy and rehearsed and inauthentic and hasn't said anything. She said nothing. To the people that already hate Trump, she's just banging a gong, 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 gong. For Donald Trump, I think, has missed some easy layups for me, it would have been starting the debate by saying, hey, Kamala, I want to give you the rest of my time to tell us why you lied about Joe Biden and his health for so long. Why'd you do it? Why were you implicit in the cover-up, the greatest cover-up in American history? I think there have been some big, I think there have been some big mistakes. Like, why don't you say the names of the 13 American service members who died in Afghanistan? That's all you have to do. It's something that I so regularly advise Republicans. So I have a cohort. I'm in my 30s. Republicans who are in their 30s, they contact me and they ask, and we do debate prep together. I want to be press secretary for this exact reason. What you have to do is learn the power of a nice, long, beautiful silence that is drawn out when you ask the right question. This is something that I've learned in my position here. You have to be the inquisitor. You have to be the one asking the question. The person asking the question has the power. The person asking the question, it's like, I love being interviewed. It's so nice to be interviewed and hear myself talk. No, actually, not hearing yourself talk is what you want. You want to ask them. So here's what you do. Here's what you do. On the border issue, you simply look Kamala in the face and you go, Laken Riley, I want you to say your name. And then I want you to apologize to her family. I have a photo of them right here. Pull out a photo of Laken Riley and her family. You say, this is it. Would you please apologize? Because your policies murdered their daughter. And then you just let that silence stretch out before you. The camera turns to Kamala. It zooms in. And Kamala goes, she doesn't know. She's rattled. So those are my critiques of both sides. Okay. I don't think that this debate moves the needles very much. I think this is exactly where it was going to end up. I want Trump to have a knockout blow. We're at closing statements. Donald Trump will get the last closing statement. I want Trump to have a knockout blow. But here's the thing that is enraging to me. The media. This is so disgraceful. We all remember Candy Crowley when she fact-checked Mitt Romney in the Obama debates. And that sort of led to a spiral for Mitt Romney. This is grotesque, what ABC News is doing. It is journalistic malpractice. It is 100% propaganda. There's not been a single question that has been negative about Kamala Harris. Every question goes like this. And now that I'm like absorbing it all, spent a lot of energy. Now that I'm absorbing it all, now I realize this. Every single question that is asked in this debate goes, moderator, Trump, you are an evil man. Why are you evil? Trump, I'm not an evil man. Kamala, Trump's an evil man. Why is Trump an evil man? That's how it goes. The media is the enemy. Here, ladies and gentlemen, the debate live.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements. And Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future and the other that is focused on the past and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever ask them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
All right, that is
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are just aghast, quite frankly. I don't know how else to describe what we just saw other than criminal, journalistic, flaming malpractice. I don't know any other way to describe it. It was the most biased, sickeningly so. I don't like complaining about the, I don't think it's a great look to complain about the refs, right? But my entire timeline is people, even people who, quite frankly, are not major Donald Trump fans and who are relatively fair media arbitrators are like, this is grotesque. The media fact-checked Donald Trump multiple times tonight. Oh, excuse me, sir. And it's like they had it written down. Excuse me, sir. We have this. We have this note. We have this note. We have this note. We have this note. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Kamala Harris was able to get away with multiple total and complete fabrications. Everything from Project 2025 to fracking to the Very Fine People hoax. And people said nothing. Nothing. The moderators said nothing. Moderators called timeout to huddle and discuss strategy with Kamala Harris. Oh, man. What a complete and total freaking mess. Honestly, some people are calling for Donald Trump's campaign managers to be fired. Other people are sharing ABC moderator Donald Trump. We do have our Hulk Hogan beer here in the studio. I'll take a step back here from the Kamala Harris gun. Yeah, that's right. Kamala Harris says she has a gun. Kamala Harris says she has a gun, and now people are saying it's a People are saying it's a tied race. What a disgrace. ABC didn't ask a single question about the soaring national debt, the rising cost of servicing the debt, out of control entitlement spending, high inflation, rising unemployment, record consumer debt, record low savings, explosion of moonlighting. Goodness gracious. It's amazing. I mean, it is just grotesque. Here we go. Kamala Harris promises mandatory government gun buybacks for the Second Amendment. Kamala Harris multiple times has promised that she's going to ban your guns. Yet ABC didn't have a single fact check on that. Nothing. Kamala Harris says, I own a gun. What gun do you own? The gall of ABC to keep fact checking only Trump while letting her lie is so infuriating. Truly infuriating. ABC reneged on the deal to mute the microphones. Harris's mic is not muted. Trump's is muted, and ABC is slow to switch it on when he begins questioning. Oh, man. Goodness. Here you go. There's a perfect one for you. I wasn't asked to help Trump debate. I'm never going to lie to you and say I'm some kind of like really super close friend of Donald Trump. We're close friends with his sons and their families, and we love them. They're close friends of us, and they're on the program. We love them. I want to begin by saying 2 or 3 quick things. One, this isn't a loss for President Trump, and I don't think this is a win for Kamala Harris. I think that, quite frankly, Donald Trump was expecting Joe Biden. Was expecting somebody who was just going to collapse. Kamala Harris didn't collapse, but she didn't do anything. She didn't say anything. All the zingers belong to Trump. All of the energy belonged to Trump. But there's enough here. I just want to tell you what's going to happen. There's enough here because of the moderators. Why do Republicans keep allowing for this? Look at this. Why do Republicans keep allowing for this style of a debate? Why? Like sheep to the slaughter. There's enough here for the corporate media to squeeze little driplets and droplets to keep Kamala alive for the next couple of weeks. I think they're going to probably need another debate, actually. I don't think it's going to really move the needle. I think that things will tighten up a little bit after this. I think it'll tighten a little. We'll see. But did this convince anybody to not vote for Trump or to vote for Kamala? No, of course not. Kamala was rehearsed and inauthentic and naggy and cringy and nervous. You could hear her licking her lips. You hear her catching her breath. And you can hear her pausing quite a bit and repeating her talking points. None of it seemed authentic. But President Trump, I'll say this. President Trump, I will happily help you prepare for your next debate for free. Don't you worry. Your boy Benny's got you. Here's the things that I wanted to see from President Trump. I want to see President Trump go, you know what? I want to begin this debate by actually giving my time to Kamala Harris. Kamala, why did you cover up Joe Biden's mental handicaps for so long? How long have you known about Joe Biden? Go. And then you just stop talking. On the Afghanistan question, you say you've never met with the 13 American service members' families who you slaughtered their children. Why don't you just tell me why you've abandoned them? Why insult them like that? And then you stop. You just let her answer. Can you name a single American service member who you ordered to their death? And you just let her answer. I promise you she hasn't prepared for that. The reason why this tactic works, the reason why this tactic is so important, and the reason why this tactic is what I coached Vivek Ramaswamy on, actually, when he flipped it around on Kristen Welker and said, you're the Russiagate collusion hoaxer, right? The reason why that works is because they're not used to answering questions. And you can't count on the moderators. We were all blown away. You, me, all of us were blown away when the CNN moderators were just basically fair. They were basically fair. Some questions angled towards Trump's strengths, some questions angled towards Biden's strengths, and Biden just fills his diaper and collapses into a coma. And Trump just had to stand there and be able to fog up a mirror, right? By breathing. That's pretty much it. And Trump did that and did it beautifully and had a good, very, very solid debate, but wasn't baited and wasn't brought in. Like, we were all amazed and like giving plaudits to CNN for just not lighting their hair on fire and like screaming and attacking Donald Trump with pitchforks. That's what was considered like a great debate performance by the moderators. That was all planned. Please understand this. That was all planned. They needed to knock out Biden. They did it on purpose. They were like, they know that when they're fair, that Biden loses. When they're fair, that Kamala loses, because none of these people are ever used to getting a question, which is why, as the candidate or the person on stage, you have to absorb the power of asking the question. And then allowing that long silence to spread out before you. Now here, ABC knew what their mission was. If the mission of CNN was to knock out Joe Biden by just giving him some chin music, right? And they knew this, they sleep the guy. See ya, right? That's all it took. The mission of ABC News tonight was to prop up Harris, to not ask a single flipping question that was negative to Kamala Harris. Everything was framed to be handed directly to her, gift wrapped, and she got the questions in advance. There were specific questions. I don't think every question, but I think there were specific topics and questions that without a doubt, Kamala Harris gets in advance. Everything was framed, tailor-made. Even stuff that like should have been potential tripping points for her, like immigration. Instead of immigration being like, why did you let in 10 million criminal aliens and people who are destroying towns in the Midwest and from coast to coast? Instead of the question being framed like that, it's framed like, Trump, how are you going to deport them all? How are you going to do that? Can you imagine? I mean, it's so wild. ABC News, we're going to change to race now. We would like to ask some questions about race. Dude, not a single question about inflation. That affects race. That affects all races. Maybe it disproportionately affects the people who you're trying to pander to. So maybe you should ask that question. But it is water under the bridge now. Water under the bridge. Because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, does it really matter? Will anyone even care? It is 11 p.m. It's 5 minutes to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On the... Yeah. Okay. Well, here we go. And Polymarket has a tie. Polymarket now has a tie. They've had Trump up 5. They've had Trump up 2. They've had Kamala up 5. And now Polymarket has a tie. Kamala Harris has gained after this debate and tied it up. This was my prediction. Will Kamala debate Trump again? I don't think so. I don't know, but I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm not sure, but I will tell you this. We are in a fight for the soul of the nation. The people who we are running against are, I'm not saying this about all Democrats. I am saying this about the cabal of government bureaucrats, barnacleized and calcified inside of our systems. Those people are demonic. And we know this. You can feel spiritual energy, man. Those people, their sole goals are power and to keep that power in perpetuity. And they'll do anything. They'll do anything. They'll destroy this place before they give up power. There's only one way to actually get them out. And that'll be to elect somebody like President Trump. And that is a huge existential threat to you and your children. And so we've got to fight. We cannot make mistakes. And we must seize opportunities. And so that is what I want to see. I mean, I want to see us seizing these opportunities. I hope there are more debates. I think, again, this is a draw. But the corporate media is going to squeeze blood from a stone here and try and say that Kamala Harris had a victory. Yeah. Don't be complacent. Do not be complacent, ladies and gentlemen. Joining us right now, sort of to give his commentary on the debate, the great Jack Brewer, who worked with President Trump at the White House and on commissions, also former NFL player and great friend of the show. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I feel like I just played a football game and the refs called back 4 touchdowns, but I'm trying to recover.
Man, this was a rigged job, dude. I don't know why Republicans keep agreeing to this style of debate.
Yeah, I mean, we just walked into the Lions Den, man. It was sad to watch, because I felt I had so many emotions. You felt bad, and then you just halfway through, I was like, this lady is a master manipulator. Like the Jezebel spirit was hovering everywhere. It was unbelievable. But for them to go through that entire debate and not fact check her one time, I mean, she's bringing up things that Snopes and everyone else has fact checked. Even liberal organizations have fact checked. I mean, she's taking it all the way back, to the Harlem kids and Charlottesville. I mean, it was sickening to see and to think that this is a woman who just came off of a convention where they were in a city where 109 people got shot a couple weekends before they were there. They've decimated all communities. They want to bring up race, and they've completely just set the African Americans in our nation back a decade with their policies and with inflation and with all of these other things that they've been pushing on our kids and our children. And I feel like we didn't even get into any of that. Like that was not even talked about, the spiritual nature of our nation. I mean, even when President Trump asked her, would you abort a baby at 7, 8, 9 months? Ask her the question. They refused to ask her the question. And so it just, it was sad to watch and to think that so many Americans got manipulated tonight.
Yeah, they didn't ask a single question about the economy, about inflation, about the out of control debt, about grocery store prices, about home prices, about the capacity for people to live and eat and work, about the number of people that have multiple jobs, about the destruction of the American labor force and workforce and foreign jobs going to criminal aliens. They didn't ask anything about that. This is the stuff that people care about, Jack. But instead they're like, here's the race question. I've been waiting to ask the race question. Dude, the race question is the economy. And that's all that every poll shows, is all that people care about is the economy and how in shambles things have become. And that actually applies to all of us, right? So there's your race question. Yet every single thing was pruned, primrose for Kamala Harris. Even the border questions, the Afghanistan questions were framed as like Trump's the bad guy. It was evil, man. It was evil. There's bad energy.
It was completely demonic. And you look back at it, listen, I'm a realist. Trump didn't lose. Kamala didn't lose. Yeah. America lost tonight. America lost tonight because we had to sit there and listen to something that was just so out in left field, so unrealistic to think about the things that they were saying. I mean, that is the first time troops aren't at war. She's trying to take credit, and we're on the brink of World War III. It's unbelievable. And so she never called out for the proxy wars that they're basically paying for in the government. I mean, we have more proxy wars going on right now than any time in our history. It's unbelievable. And so none of these things came out. These moderators just consistently tried to pin Trump against a wall. Every time he said a comment, they try to throw out a fact check, never do it with her. And the fact that we have the highest inflation that we've had, I know, in my lifetime, and she doesn't have to ask any tough question about that. She can sit here and say and pretend like she hasn't been in the White House for 3 years and 8 months. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, Benny.
So, Jack, you certainly know how to deliver a hit and take a hit in football, on the field, in life, and in what you do day to day. You work with President Trump. You obviously know this man very, very closely. Where does the campaign go, and how do we get victory in November? Because I I do believe that we are facing very dire times right now. You know, we do need a fighter. We need that fighter, Trump.
Right. We're at a tipping point, Benny. Right now, this is a tipping point in the history of our nation. And I'll tell you what, at that tipping point, you have two sides. And you have one side is this going to be about the campaign, or do we have a side that's going to be about saving our nation? This is not about the campaign anymore. This is about American patriots, people that love this country, people that understand spirituality and really want to have one nation under God. This is the time for all of those people to stand up and rise, because we see that the enemy is reared its evil and ugly head. And we're taking on forces that are so deep and so demonic that we can't be surface anymore. The surface days are over. We can't take what we see on TV. We can't listen to the ABCs and the CNNs and let them manipulate the minds of the people. We've got to be willing to pay a price. We've got to be willing to sacrifice to have our friends, our neighbors, and our family members get mad at us and disappointed in us and not like what we say. We've got to have those hard conversations that, might cost us our job, might cost us our career, might force us to make a career change. That is how important this election is right now. If this lady is elected president of the United States, you will not be able to recognize this country in 2 to 3 years. And we have to understand that as Americans. You're talking about a woman who is going to push nothing but DEI policies. She's going to do nothing. Think about it. She wants to spend millions of dollars to make transgender surgeries for people in prison. Who even can think about something so crazy? You have a vice presidential candidate that literally passed a law in Minnesota to put tampons in boys' restrooms. That's how sick and demonic these people are. Yet we watched a 2-hour debate and they were not held accountable for this crazy Sodom and Gomorrah-like policies that they've all been pushing. They did not get held accountable for any of it. And a national debate probably is going to be the most viewed debate in the history of our country. That should put everyone on their heels and wake the entire nation up.
Jack, you are a man who has deep and profound spiritual insights. We say thank you for joining the program. We hope you come back soon because we need more people to see this through, not flesh and blood, spiritual energy. This is actually how we win. Those are the actual battles we fight. Godspeed, Jack.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Benny. Keep pushing. This is a wake-up call. Let's go. Let's go, America. It's time.
It's time. The great Jack Brewer. President Trump has posted on Truth Social for the first time. Thought it was my best debate ever, especially since it was 3-on-1. These are the memes that are being shared across the internet. Kamala Harris sleeping soundly at night. ABC News absorbing all of the attacks on her. Kamala Harris getting protected by the moderators. It was a complete rig job. Complete rig job. Lindsay Davis, David Muir, Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, I got you. I will save you. Yeah. Humiliating. I'll tell you, it is in these moments that you realize what you are fighting against, right? You've got to understand that there is a enormous amount of darkness that wishes to take over this country. And you have to ask yourself, what does it mean when you're under attack? Satan doesn't attack his own, right? So what does it mean when you're under attack? Well, that means that you are trying to preserve something or protect something, create something, or you are currently something that is inspired and that provides some salt and light into the world. And that's what we want to provide on this program. We're not doomers. There's no black pilling here. We get up and we fight. There's always things that it's an imperfect world. There's always things we want to have better. I think that maybe they'll do another debate. Actually, I think that's what's going to happen. And we're here for it. It's going to be a rowdy 50 days, and we're going to need going to need to put on the full armor. Revelations 12:11 for our verse tonight. And they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. For they loved not their lives, even unto the death. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you are covered by the Lord and Savior, who is actually victorious, and somebody who will regularly and completely have victory. It's not something that you need to question. It's not something that you need to lose sleep over. It's something that you just need to stand upright and march towards. We say this all the time. Do not put your faith in men. Do not put your faith in political parties. Just don't, right? Like these movements, all of this stuff, everything that we're fighting for, like know this, we've already had the victory. And that is assured to us. Our faith, ladies and gentlemen, will set us free. The truth shall set us free. And in that, we can march ever confidently as an army of happy warriors on to victory. Can't defeat an army of happy warriors. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll keep memeing them and keep marching on. It's your boy, Benny. Thank you for watching tonight. God bless you and sleep tight.
You disappoint me.
I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
Mrs. Harris, what good is speaking if you can't speak?
Oh, shut up, silly woman.
The story of young Kamala rode a donkey from Tijuana, met a man, Willie Brown, deep in the bowels of California. Nice to meet you, nice to know you. Would you like fries with your order? Come a bit closer. I got something I wanna show you. This is my spatula, this is my apron. My name is Kamala, you know what I'm saying. Cat, 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 I load the pallets in the back, golden arch, I'm a wreck. Oh, Willie, you made a mess. Think fries are done, think fries are done. Oh, what have I done? I just needed a job. One day I'll become a lawyer. Think fries are done, one day I'll be a lawyer. Think fries are done, one day I'll be a lawyer. Think fries are done, one day I'll be a lawyer. This a meet you, nice to know you. Would you like fries with your order? Come a bit closer. I got something I wanna show you. This is my spatula, this is my apron. My name is Kamala, you know what I'm saying. Cat, 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 I load the pallets in the back, golden arch.